Hi, everyone, and welcome to Onchain Honestly.
A podcast about what actually works in Web3 as a business.
We're long term believers in this space, and we want to have more honest conversations about how it really works.
So, we explore real models, real incentives, real outcomes, and what it takes to build something that lasts.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Onchain Honestly. This is a podcast about what actually works in Web3 as a business, beyond the narratives, the hype, and the noise. And this is our very first introductory episode where we will explain the entire idea behind this pod. Kaiser, great to be doing this with you. How are you today?
Thank you, Alenka. And yeah, I must say I am very excited to dig into the topics and, have all the guests over who, we have planned. So I think it will be a great show.
And just to set the context a bit, I think we're really at an inflection point in this industry. And I'm not really talking about the bear market or current crypto prices. I think this time it's much deeper than that. So what we're actually seeing is two worlds unfolding at the same time. The first one is the old crypto world that is so familiar to all of us, right? Like crypto native teams and users who have been observing the market kind of growing through different types of narratives like DeFi summer, play to earn, NFTs, meme coins. But many of those waves or narratives faded away completely, and a lot of them proved ultimately unsustainable from both a product market fit and revenue perspective. And as a result, a lot of builders are completely lost right now. And this is what I observed with my own eyes last week at ECC. And then if we look at the stats, every single major ecosystem has been losing active developers in monthly terms, while AI projects are attracting like literally millions of new developers every single month. We've also seen a lot of DeFi protocols shutting down recently, including Zero Land and Milky Way, a lot of projects in the Cosmos ecosystem in particular. So the question that we should, I think, be asking ourselves is essentially what went wrong. And a few reasons for such a state of things are evident, including the hyper-focus on short-term gains and the short-term narratives, unsustainable business models. And another thing also, like the lack of really fair and honest and open conversations about what was going on and why some business models didn't work at all. And then at the same time, we're seeing a different world, which is currently emerging, which is traditional finance coming on chain. So essentially, institutions are starting to use blockchain rails for both money movement and capital formation. The RWA market is at roughly $27 billion. Players like BlackRock and Apollo are investing into our favorite DeFi protocols, Uniswap and Morpho. A lot of firms are launching their stablecoins. And so here the question is, what exactly is the commercial, the business opportunity that they see here, right? Because if they come, then it means they see the real revenue streams, the real utility and long-term value. But for us, as people who are very much fascinated by the blockchain technology and by the principles in which this world has originally been built, the question is, what will happen to crypto native values and products? And will we still have some space for, those crazy and bold crypto experience? So I think this is the type of questions that we're going to try to answer in this podcast, inviting different guests and experts.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely echo the fact that users are more skeptical. The capital is way more selective, and there's really beginning to form out these companies that actually have revenues, and they're more separated now from the narrative-driven ones. So I think that gap between them is also getting bigger and bigger. So yeah, I guess these kind of conversations is very important to have at this moment, that we actually look a little bit closer at the operational realities, or what happens in the back office as well, to not only focus on the biggest headlines. So I guess at least with this podcast, we hope to sort of look into where is the real business, as you said as well, instead of some like temporary trades or, products that are only held together by these very specific market conditions. So yeah, I guess that's sort of what on-chain honestly also means for me as a title. So, we definitely don't want to have this founder storytelling type of conversations.
100%. And then you touched upon a very important thing, which is us, right? You and me. Let's maybe talk a bit more about our background, our expertise, and what exactly we're going to be trying to bring to this board.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I actually entered the blockchain space via academia. So I minored in blockchain technology in The Hague, in the Netherlands. And, it's very traditional story that once you're sort of in the space, you're never really getting out of there. So my journey actually really ventured more into this compliance and legal and AML section of the, doing business as a Web3 company. So it actually already years ago was very important topic, but I think it's becoming now more and more sort of obvious how we are fitting into this more institutional world, what Web3 companies actually have to do to offer their services. And about a year ago, I joined Alia Research. So also have had many hats there, from actually doing the research and producing the papers to some product research and development, and also this now doing the podcast and talking about the findings. But how about you?
Actually, my experience and background is a bit different, which I think makes it very much complementary and even more exciting. So I've been in the space for over 5 years now. And since the very beginning, I've been more on the builders and operators side of things. So over those years, I've worked with dozens, if not hundreds, of companies across DeFi, RWA tokenization, payments, gaming, and social products even. And I've seen many of them rise and fail and pivot and survive and continue to scale. And I'd say my most recent role was at the Ton Foundation. And for those who may not know, Ton is the blockchain that originally was launched by the Telegram team. And so I spent over 2 years there as director of ecosystem, where we launched multi-million-dollar support programs for projects building on our infra. And during that time, my team supported over 1,000 builders across the eco, and we contributed to a period of a major growth for the chain, with TVL reaching close to $1 billion. So that was really exciting. And before Twan, I also co-founded my own accelerator, which was supported by MasterCard, Polygon, Avalanche, and other prominent companies in the space. And it's still operating, growing super quickly, supported hundreds of fintech and Web3 founders at different stages, still in very close touch with the guys. And well, today I work as an advisor and venture partner, focusing primarily on RWA tokenization and payments. So I work with companies across these segments, including asset owners, asset managers, infra providers, building solutions for these markets. And I think what I really want to bring to this board is this very fact that I've worked side by side with many founders, and I've always been very curious to see which models are sustainable and which can, survive in the long term. So that's really the perspective that I want to bring to this podcast. And on a personal note, I'm very happy about everything that's happening in the space. This convergence of traditional finance primitives and our favorite decentralized world that we've been building for years. And I'm very happy to be watching it from the inside and discussing all of that here with you and with the guests and experts that we're going to be bringing to Onchain, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, definitely picking up your last words there. I think we have very insightful conversations ahead. And actually, to sort of maybe wrap also slowly up this introductory episode, maybe, Lenka, what do you think, or at least what would you like to have the guests or listeners take away from our episodes?
Look, I think we should obviously focus on something very practical, pragmatic, right? Like all the time bringing up numbers, like what revenue you can actually get from a particular business model, what the customer acquisition costs are, what the potential challenges are, and really dig deeper into the models of particular products that, for example, managed to pivot successfully throughout those years. An illustrative example for me has always been Edify, right? Who went from like a staking on the narrative towards building and successfully launching one of the largest earn and spend products out there in the market. I would also love to have open conversations about why particular segments and like narratives faded away, like play to earn, tap to earn, risk-taking, Bitcoin, L2s, and all the multiple topics that we already covered with you briefly. So focusing on facts, focusing on numbers, focusing on disagreement and debate, as long as it's healthy, of course, and respectful. And then talking about the value and the real impact, because this is what we want to focus on with this pod. What do you think the core takeaways could be for our listeners throughout the upcoming episode?
So, at least for me, I think this touches really upon the point that you also made earlier, is that builders can be a bit confused about where is actually, the product market fits, but also investors or capital allocators might be, losing a bit their foot right now in terms of it's not what it used to be. So the old world that you mentioned, but, we are also maybe not yet in this new world. So I hope that the value that the listeners can take away from here is really, to bring a bit more clarity, or, to be a bit more specific and a bit more grounded in the stories that we tell, in this Web3 space.
Look, we've prepared a lot, and I think it's high time we started ultimately rolling it out.